I was thinking, what can I share? And then a thought came, let me look at some of the poignant experiences in my own Brahmin life. And I selected 3 or 4 points which have been important for me. And maybe these could be useful and interesting for you also. Certainly one thing is this Brahmin life it's the path of walking. One cannot reach the perfection or the angelic stage just by reading the Murlis alone or by discussions or workshops, but it's only in the practical living, coming into practical life, interaction, relationships, that you begin to discover yourself, and also you discover what truth is. And so the first thing is, I believe that we all pass through different stages in this Brahmin life. And for me, I've identified 3 main stages. And I'd say the first stage when we come into this life, I would call it as the stage of thesis. And that's where you create an idea in your own mind about some of the main aspects of this life. So for example, you create a thesis about what service means to you, or what study means to you, or what Brahmin family means to you. And that thesis is based upon your old thinking, the experiences you are carrying from this life and also from previous lives. But at that stage of immaturity, you know better. And so with that thesis in mind, we run in one direction with regard to these main aspects of Brahmin life. But then after some time, you feel that this is unsustainable. And the feeling comes, this is not really what Baba is talking about. Baba means something else. And then comes stage 2, which is antithesis. You go completely in the opposite direction. And you feel that now you have understood what Baba is meaning by these things, family, service, yagya, and so on. And the way you behave, the way you live your Brahmin life can be quite opposite to the way you were doing it before. And then finally you come to stage 3, which is the synthesis of both the first stage and the second stage. And the synthesis stage, I would say, is the stage of maturity. Now, how would you measure maturity in the Brahmin life? I would say it's maturity of understanding. Understanding what Baba really means when he says what he says. So to give an example of these 3 stages, let's take the idea of service. So thesis stage in service could be you get busy doing lots and lots of service. You start running around after service. You volunteer for every service that's going. You even do the service that actually is somebody else's duty. But you're full of beans, as it were, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, lots of service. Sometime later, feeling a little bit tired, a bit worn out, maybe a bit exhausted, and one says, well, this is not what Baba means by service. And so you go right in the opposite direction. And you say, what Baba means by service is Mansa Seva. That's what we have to do now. Stop all this running around. Let's do Mansa Seva. And so it's the stage where you have gone from doing only to being only. And one spends many hours in Baba's room, very silent, just sending Sakash to the different parts of the world. And if somebody were to ask you to help in some service program, then you may say, well, you have my good wishes, but you don't actively involve yourself. And then comes stage 3, which is the maturity, the synthesis stage. And that's where you have understood that service doesn't mean only doing. Service doesn't mean only being, but it's both together. In other words, it's being-based doing. And we saw this in the Janki, certainly, but also the stories of Brahma Baba. Right until the final days, they didn't stop their service. And when you're in that stage of when you're being in the right consciousness and also busy doing, that's when you really enjoy the service. So I would say that for all of us, in all the different aspects of Brahmin life, we go through these stages of thesis, antithesis, and finally synthesis, the stage of maturity. So that's one thing. Second thing, I would say, important to understand for each self, what are my own needs? What is my own psychology? And I feel that those Brahmins who are still around after 30, 40 years, one of the reasons why they're there and they're growing is they really understood their own psychology, their own personality. Now, you may be familiar with Maslow's pyramid of needs. He talks about these 5 needs in a pyramid structure. I think useful for us as Brahmins also to ask ourselves individually, what would be my Brahmin pyramid of needs? What would I put within that pyramid for myself personally? I can share some of the things I would put in there, not in any particular order, but certainly these things would be important for me. So for example, there is the need for deep gyan and deep churning, the joy of going deep into knowledge and making one's own discoveries about truth. So that's a need. I would say another need is to have real and honest conversations with fellow spiritual travelers. And it's very nourishing when people are really being honest and sharing their own real experiences, what they've learned, what they've discovered. So that kind of honest sharing with other spiritual travelers, that's a great need. Another is the wonderful sense of stillness and silence which comes when you have a long yoga bhakti. You know, especially when you go deep, like into an hour and a half or 2 hours, and reach that point where the mind is really, really still, very silent, very peaceful. And then, of course, you just want to stay like that for a long time. But that sense of wonderful peace, it just makes you feel everything is worth giving up. This feeling of great stillness and silence. Another need, of course, a big need, is to experience Baba's love. Because God's love is the panacea to all ills. And for me, it's like taking a vitamin pill. Just like a multivitamin pill can supply you with a lot of what the body needs, the same way God's love provides the soul with everything we need. A sense of being noticed, sense of being respected, the feeling of being appreciated. You know, all the subtle things that we look for from human beings are met in the experience of God's love. And so that's a need, especially every morning, to feel that personal sense of connectedness. And God's love fills the heart very quickly. When the heart is full, the mind becomes quiet, and the intellect becomes very clear. So there's that. Plus, I would add also, having good spiritual friends is a need. And part of friendship also is about play and having fun. So even one's fun needs must be met within that pyramid. And I'll just add one more, which is the need to contribute, the need to serve, the need to feel useful. And so for Brahmins, Baba says anyway, you can't stay without doing service. And if a particular avenue of service is blocked, for example, nowadays we can't go out and give lectures, but then I must be creative and find another avenue. So the need to share, to serve, to contribute is another need. Then let me just quickly add one more thing. I think I have a minute or so left. Another great sustainer for the self is always to see one's own personal fortune. And I say this because something Baba said to me one year, and it's been a real compass for me in my Brahmin life. That continue to see your own fortune, and you will always remain happy. So to think, what has Baba given to me? How has my life improved since I came to Baba? Just keep that in the mind. Keep thinking about that. And it creates this inner sense of intoxication. The intoxication is very, very high spiritual energy. It's the greatest protection and also the greatest investment. Okay, I think I need to stop there. It's about 10 minutes or so.
Wonderful, thank you, Bay. Two very clear topics. It even brings the theme from Sunday's Avyakt Murli of harmonizing of sanskars and realizing, I think it was Jayanti Ben that was even explaining how different Baba and Brahma Baba and Mama were in their own specialities, and even in reaching that stage and that stage of elevation, still just with such different specialities. So a beautiful kind of framework really to think of each of our own individual pyramids and each of our needs within that framework. So thank you for sharing. Would love to hear other comments and questions from the rest of the gathering.
Good morning, Yogesh. It's Philip here. Thank you for your thoughts, and as always, I find them very engaging. One of the points that you mentioned really resonated with me personally, and that was on the theme of having real and honest conversations with fellow travellers. And I'm wondering whether perhaps you could expand a little in terms of what you meant by that, and what is to be gained by truthfully and in a very deep and honest way challenging what we hear and what we say, so that we really reach a personal understanding. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, when one shares, for example, how I overcame a particular obstacle, or there's a particular sanskar I dealt with, and this is what helped me to overcome it. When someone's honestly sharing of themselves, what they've been through, but not just that, but how Gyan and how Baba helped them to overcome something. So it's hugely inspiring to hear that sort of honest sharing from a person. And it can, you know, it can touch a person that, yeah, that's exactly what I need. You know, what he has gone through, I'm also going through the same. And it inspires you and you feel supported. So I feel even a small group of Brahmins sitting together and really sharing, you know, honestly what they have learned and how they've been able to overcome certain things. I feel it kind of like massages the soul. And it just lifts up and lifts everybody up. So that's been my experience of being in those gatherings when that energy of honesty is present in a very real way.
Thank you.
Hi, Yogesh.
Hello, Kantamen. You are everywhere.
Oh, sometimes somewhere. I like everything you shared, particularly having fun. I think it's so important, and I agree with you. What sort of fun can you remember which you were inspired by and enjoyed, and You know, give us an example.
Fun, yeah, that's a strange one, isn't it? Well, see, my thinking is that I'm part of a team to create a world of happiness. So I should be happy as I'm doing the job. You know, it's not about being heavy and serious and then you enter the world of happiness. So for me, fun is like, I mean, the classic example is in Madhuban. You know, we have our classes, we have our yoga bhattis, we have workshops, but also, especially when Dadi Ji used to be there, Dadi Prakashmani, should make sure everybody has fun. Fun means even physically playing, you know, going to the Peace Park, enjoying each other's company, laughing, using your creativity. I remember one experience when double foreigners were in Gyansrova in the Harmony Hall, and Dadiji came just to meet everyone. And she asked everyone, she said, does anybody want anything? Does anybody have any desire? And so just one brother put his hand up and shouted, you know, we want picnic at Peace Park. And I remember Dadiji's words. She said, peace bhi chahiye, lekin happy bhi to chahiye. Which means, you know, we need peace, but yes, we also need happiness. So like there is a need to express and share. And so coming together with others and sharing your creativity, sharing your joy, you know, whether it's in conversation or it's in playing games and being together, but that sense of having fun together. And, you know, Brahma Baba used to say that part of student life also means to play. So Baba would take them, you know, let's play some games. Baba himself used to play cards, used to play chess, used to play cricket. So it's like a need. It's a need that the soul has that has to be addressed within the Brahmin life. It shouldn't be Brahmin life is study, 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 and I look for fun somewhere else. That fun should be within the Brahmin life.
Sure. Helps relationships as well. Helps have good relationships amongst Brahmins. Enjoy each other's company. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Om Shanti Yogesh Bhai.
Shanti.
The yajna has grown so much over the last, number of decades. Where would you say that it stands on a scale of 1 to 10 on how democratic, the structure is, whatever it means to you?
1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest.
Yes, that's right. And if there is room for more, for more democracy, if it would be of benefit to effort makers in the family.
Yeah, I mean, my own feeling is
if it's relevant to you.
Yeah, I mean, my comment would be that Baba does not believe in democracy. That the system of Baba is somebody once called it a divine respectocracy. You know, so somebody once called it a benevolent dictatorship. In the sense that, God is the intellect of the wise, and and he appoints certain souls to be in certain roles, only in terms of roles for service and roles for administration. But when it comes to making efforts in spiritual growth, it's open for everyone. Everyone can go as fast as they want. So, whenever you have an organization, you need a structure of decision making, you need a structure for coordination and administration. But what's important, I think, always to feel is that this is a spiritual organization. It's a spiritual journey. So at every moment, there is potential for me to grow spiritually. no matter what's happening outside of me, the opportunity to practice a certain virtue, or to practice a certain power, or to apply a certain point of knowledge, that's what I must get busy in doing. If I may just add one more thing. I remember once, actually it was here in Istanbul some years ago, I was in a meeting, and so, you know, it was a meeting like 10, 12 people, and I put some idea forward, but then somebody else had another idea, somebody else another idea, and kind of become a bit karışık, a bit mixed up, as it were. And then the thought came to my mind that what is happening on the outside is not as important as what's happening on the inside. That on the outside, the discussion was going in another direction. And I was asking myself, on the inside, am I soul conscious? Am I stable? Am I in Baba's remembrance? Am I able to have good wishes for those who are around me? And it just felt so clear that what's happening on the inside is actually more important than what's happening on the outside. So in that sense, I would say, you know, the term democracy doesn't really apply to Baba's work, but we're learning a divine respectocracy. We're learning to win, to grow using virtues rather than using you know, methods and systems. And I believe at the end of the day that what really helps us to grow, even as a Yagya, is our principles, not just people. People and personalities are there, but principles of truth, honesty, openness, respect, that's what we have to work with to make things grow. That's what I saw certainly in Dadi Prakash Mani and then later Dadi Janki, is make principles the most important thing in our working together, and things will continue to expand.